This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Hey everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast. It is Sunday, September 25th, 2022, and we're going to get into everything that happened this week in WWE. The one thing, though, that didn't happen, that everyone thought could happen, Bray Wyatt. You know, I had heard before SmackDown of people's theories regarding Bray Wyatt and the White Rabbit song that WWE has been playing. And I have to say, I wasn't truly convinced by any stretch of the imagination that they were going to re-debut Bray Wyatt on a random SmackDown episode, not the season premiere, not a premium live event, that they were just going to trot him out there. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me that they were going to re-debut him on the SmackDown this past week. And to me, if they're going to do it, it's going to be on a high impact, very visible stage. You know, that's not to say that, of course, that Fox doesn't have a fan base, doesn't have a viewership. Of course they do. SmackDown does too. But you want to maximize a moment like that. And to me, it wasn't the right moment. Now, that's assuming, of course, that Bray Wyatt is on his way back. If you were to ask me, it sounds like it's plausible. Bray Wyatt loves to be cryptic on Twitter. He knows that everyone analyzes, overanalyzes, and reanalyzes everything that is done to try to figure out what's going on. And the evidence that people gave this past week was that, well, Bray Wyatt liked an old tweet from Luke Harper. And I'm like, that's it? That's all you've got, you know? So I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking. I didn't believe it before I saw it. It just doesn't make sense to do this on a random SmackDown if he's coming back at all. But if he is, absolutely, he could be coming back or would be coming back on a bigger stage. Now, that does also beg the question, if he comes back, could he be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns? Just a thought. I haven't given it more thought than I just gave you right there with mentioning it. So let me know, would you guys, if Bray Wyatt returned, have him be the one to take the belt off of Roman? Just some food for thought. I'm sure that Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan has other thoughts, and if he had his way, Roman Reigns would be champion through WrestleMania 48. But that said, I love you, brother. And if you guys want to join the mailbag, by the way, I'm referring to the mailbag episode, go ahead and do so. The contact info is in the description of the episode that we launched on Thursday. So this week was, I think, a lot of fun. The theme continues with Triple H in charge of higher quality wrestling matches and heat building heels. That's the theme. That's been the theme. And also factions. Specifically faction building heat. There's been a lot of that. And I don't hate it. And I'm not sick of it. And I think it is producing it's producing some moments for you that you didn't feel prior to this. Meaning, you know now, you've been reminded what heel heat feels like. And now you're looking for somebody to blow it off. You're looking for someone to overtake this group or overtake that heel and beat them senseless. I mean, so Triple H is doing God's work right now, as they say, the Lord's work, and reminding people of the usefulness of anger that we very rarely got with Vince. And I'm really enjoying it. You know, if you're asking specifically what we're talking about, Judgment Day on Raw. Once again, standing tall. Dominic not getting his ass handed to him yet. Ray continues to continues to refuse to face his son. That'll be a story that'll continue for a little longer. You have Rhea Ripley being the kind of awkward, uncomfortable mother figure that's poisoning her quote-unquote son and giving him, just feeding him brainwashing dialogue. That's what she's doing, and I like it. Rhea and Dominic fit well together in a very strange, uncomfortable way. I'm loving that whole storyline. And now with AJ Styles being infused into that, although not in a really official capacity opposing Judgment Day yet, we know it's coming. And I think we're going to see something manifest this coming week on Raw tomorrow night or tonight, depending on when you're listening to this. You're going to see something on Raw that AJ Styles gets involved with and opposes the Judgment Day, and we get some kind of 6-person tag team matchup with Ray and Edge maybe, and AJ Styles versus Finn and Damian and Dom. I think that could be a 6-man tag, and there'll be a moment in that match where Ray and Dominic are tagged in together, and Ray stares at his son and still refuses to lay a hand on his son, and Dominic still beats the hell out of him anyway. And maybe Ray defends himself or looks like he's going to strike Dom and doesn't. So they'll play on that a little bit longer. But I think that's what's going to be the case here, is a 6-person tag team matchup at Extreme Rules. So be on the lookout for that. If they don't do that, I really don't know what the match would be. AJ versus Finn? No, but what are you going to do with Damian? What are you doing with Edge? What are you doing with Ray? You got to further all that story. So to me, 6-on-6 with the subplot of Ray and Dominic being a big part of that. So that's what I think about that. And, this past week on SmackDown, we'll talk a little bit more about Monday Night Raw a little later, but SmackDown this past week, which, by the way, John Carrasco and our awesome lead there on the SmackDown review of Michael Ritter did a great job of covering SmackDown. And by the way, go check out their Football Function podcast, or Michael Ritter's Football Function podcast. Great time if you're an NFL fan to check out a football podcast. It's called Football Function, so check it out. But beyond their review, and they do a great job, I want to add some stuff. So the big story here coming out of the show, I think, was Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn going from an honorary Uce to kind of a quasi-real member, even though he's not blood. And, we had no Logan Paul, which is nice. I could care less. And WWE knows that anybody outside of Saudi Arabia doesn't give a flying F about Logan Paul versus Roman Reigns. It interests nearly no one. We know that it's done for a ton of money. We know that it's done because the prince can essentially play God with the wrestlers and bring people out of retirement because he has an ungodly amount of money, and he just gets to do what he wants. And so this is an example of money talking. And we all just kind of have to accept it. This is unfortunately one of the downsides of a for-profit organization, is that sometimes you don't get what you want as a fan. You get you get whatever the higher ups will give you. You get whatever the largest donation of money and the person behind it wants you to get. And in this case, it's the Prince of Saudi Arabia. So we all just kind of have to chalk it up. If Saudi Arabia wasn't in the cards and they didn't have a deal, such a large deal financially with the Saudi government, then this match would not exist. So we all need to take that into consideration. And I know I did, because I don't like it either. But so this past week, though, on SmackDown, Sami Zayn, after we had Solo Sikoa acknowledge Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn said he acknowledges Roman, and Roman was saying that you've been kind of tagging along, and what are you doing? I'm not going to ask you again. Take off that shirt. Take off that shirt. And Jey Uso, who's like a rabid dog pacing, finally rips the shirt off him. Roman hands him another shirt and says, put this one on, and it said honorary Uso, and Roman and Sammy hug, and Jay and Sammy hug, and everybody's happy except for Jay. Or Jimmy. I'm sorry. He hugged Jimmy. Jay is the one that doesn't like and never liked Sammy. And I think that's eventually going to manipulate, or rather, what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to eventually evolve into something and manifest. There it is. It's going to manifest into something, because Jay, no matter what Sammy does or how hard he tries, Jay just has an anger problem against Sammy. And I think that is going to be the catalyst for Sami Zayn's eventual turn on the Bloodline, which may not happen immediately, but it's in the cards. As I've said, I really truly believe that Sammy and Kevin will be the one to take the belts off of the Usos. And if you don't think they are breaking New Day's record, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. They are. I actually forgot about that record with the New Day. I'm glad they reminded everyone as the longest reigning tag team champions of all time. Why not? That is something to me that is, I'd rather have the Usos at the top of the list than the New Day at the top of any list at all. So certainly they're going to beat the New Day in terms of their record. They should beat the New Day. They'll beat their 458 some days, whatever it is, and they will become the longest reigning tag team champions of all time. And Roman Reigns continues to just skip 30 days here, 60 days here, and tack that onto his record. And, so we're getting that just inflated record. I know that Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan does not like that when I point out the fact that they are giving us matches with Roman 2 months in advance, which tells you in the interim, he has no chance of dropping that belt. And I think that's an artificial inflation of his record, and it's also not just an artificial inflation, but it's also really boring. It's just boring when they do that. How does anyone find that interesting? It's like, okay, great. He has a championship match in 2 months, or even 5 weeks out, 4 weeks out. It tells you that he's not dropping the belt before then, and he may not drop it after then, but you know for sure from the time you see that advertisement until the time that match starts that he has no chance of dropping the belt. Whatever happened to the environment that you want to make feel like anything could happen at any time, right? What about that? That kills me when they say, oh, well, on November 5th, Roman Reigns is scheduled to face off against Logan Paul. And it's like, okay, well, Logan Paul has a negative 20% chance of winning that match, so we already knew that. But even if it was a credible opponent, even if it was somebody that we looked at and said, hey, wow, this is somebody that could really have a chance here, the problem is then you're for the next 7 weeks or 8 weeks, you're looking at that and saying, oh, okay, well, for the next 60 days, you know for an absolute certainty that Roman Reigns is not dropping that championship. Is that really what you want? Tell me that's not boring. And don't give me that, well, you can build anticipation, get you excited. No, I'm sorry. No, that's not going to happen. No one's getting excited for Logan Paul, Roman Reigns, except for Logan Paul. I mean, the only person excited about that match besides the Saudi Prince is Logan Paul. That's it. I mean, and the people in the arena in Saudi Arabia will cheer and boo because they spent a bunch of money to be there. But no one outside of that country will give two damns about that match. But my point is that when you announce a championship match with a current champion 2 months out, you know that, again, for the next 60 days, you might add 60 days essentially to Roman Reigns' run. That puts him over 800 days. So there you go. He's minimum 800 plus. So, all right. Well, I've said my piece on that. And by the way, if you want to hear me go on a bit of a debate with a listener on the show, I did that on the mailbag, and it was a lot of fun. So, all right. Let's see. I'm checking out looking at my notes here to see what else happened on this week in WWE, and looking at SmackDown. And, let's see. Let's talk. You know what? Let's talk about Drew McIntyre and Karrion Kross. I like this more than I feel like I should, because when Drew McIntyre got sidetracked because of Karrion Kross. I was initially a bit disappointed because Drew was and continues to be a credible threat to that United States or the Undisputed Championship. He continues to be. He still is. And I said, here we go, right? But I have to say, I'm enjoying this more and more every time I see it. And the addition of Scarlett is fun. She is, as I've said last week, feels like a throwback manager. And I love that. I think Karrion Kross doesn't need it, but boy, does it help his act. It really does. It's kind of like when Andrade Cien Almas, soon just known as Andrade, was going to the ring with Zelina Vega. And anytime Zelina Vega wasn't there, it was like, wow, something's missing. It feels kind of like that, where Scarlett adds so much to his character, really without saying a word. And she threw a fireball in Drew's face and then hit him with a low blow after he challenged Karrion to a strap match. And Karrion accepted, albeit not until he was able to gain the unfair advantage and putting him in his chokehold, and then saying you walked right into our trap. It's exactly what we wanted, this and that. And he says he accepts. So it's Karrion Kross versus Drew McIntyre for, Pride in a strap match at Extreme Rules. And I think that's going to be a fun match. Karrion Kross, I think he's got a great look. And I know there's some people, even maybe some co-hosts, that disagree with me about the Karrion Kross overhype. I think the guy's got it. I like the look. It's very natural. He looks like a total psychopath. He's got this evil vixen by his side, giving him advantages when he needs it with the low blows or the slaps or whatever. And I think that's just wrestling 101. I like it. I like this. And again, just when you think Drew is going to get the final say on Karrion Kross, it didn't turn out that way because of Scarlett. And I like that because it satisfied me to see Drew beat the hell out of Karrion Kross, only to still be left laying with the low blow and Karrion Kross standing over him. Again, this is the theme of heel heat that would have not been done with Vince around. And I know I make a lot of comparisons to Vince, or say that make it sound like Vince is the worst thing that ever happened. Of course he's not. I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here listening to this very show right now if it weren't for Vince McMahon. It's a fact. But towards the end, things did get a little bit rough around the edges and sometimes tough to watch and very predictable. So to me, with Triple H in charge, he's going back to things that pro wrestling has needed badly for the last 15 years or more. So I really like the Karrion Kross Drew stuff. I do. Okay, let's see here. The one part that made me laugh, I actually laughed. I popped as the lingo goes. It makes me sound like I'm on the inside of wrestling, right? When I say pop, because no one knows what that means. But the moment that did make me laugh was when we had Sami Zayn being confronted by Ricochet and Madcap Moss backstage, and they say that they remember what Sami used to be, and ever since he became the Bloodline, this and that, and blindsided by Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa beats both of them down, and by the way, there's a tag match next week between Solo Sikoa and Sami and Ricochet and Madcap Moss. That'll be fun. I like how they do that, by the way. Just sequential, logical things and telling you week to week what they're going to do. And so the funny part to me was after they were left laying and Solo Sikoa was like, breathing fire, we had Sami Zayn say that, that's just what I was about to do, right? Something along those lines. And it made me laugh because it was just such a perfectly timed segment and a perfectly timed delivery by Sami Zayn. I mean, Sami Zayn is one of the few that has organic comedic skill. Very few. I mean, you could count on one hand the number of people that have come and gone over the last 2 decades that have organic comedic timing. Just a few offhand: R-Truth, Santino Marella. I mean, there's just a couple, but they are few and far between. And I think Sami Zayn is on that list. He's very talented. And it's the story that keeps getting planted, the seed that keeps getting planted every time somebody talks to Sami Zayn, like Kevin Owens did a few weeks ago, is saying that, who are you? You used to be this or that. Basically trying to put seeds of doubt into Sami Zayn that I think will eventually sprout into a turn on the bloodline. And I really think that that's what's going to happen. I could be wrong, but to me, Sami Zayn, people love him. You hear people cheer him on SmackDown. They don't want to boo him. Sami Zayn is just a likable, like, kind of harmless heel right now, and we know he's more than that. But that's kind of the way people view him right now, and the tag along to the band. And to be fair, you hear a lot of cheers for Roman Reigns in the bloodline. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that when Roman Reigns is there, it feels special. Because he's not there very often. So I think that people look at that as kind of their own selfish moment, that they are excited to just see somebody that's a big deal, and rather than cheering Roman Reigns himself. But there's something there with Sami, and I hope that they capitalize on that at some point. But just wanted to point that segment out too, because that was really just a nice, funny line. By the way, I never commented on it because I don't really talk about AEW. I saw Paige, i.e. Saraya, return at AEW on, was it September 21st? So 4 days ago? And she cleared the ring out of Britt Baker and her little entourage there. And that's all I know. Okay, so I'm not going to pretend I'm going to review AEW, but I forgot to even mention, or I didn't even mention, that I saw Paige, Saraya, return at AEW Dynamite and Grand Slam, I think it was. So, hey, I like it. The pop was huge. But here's the thing with AEW, and I'll leave this to Travis, which, by the way, is our new co-host, or rather host, of his own AEW Dynamite / Rampage review that will be coming every single week. And starting this week, AEW can't forever rely on just returns. Like, that's not a sustainable strategy. You can't rely on success won't come as a company if your main mode of entertainment and creating interest is, oh my God, look who came from WWE to AEW. Wow, look at this release star who came into AEW, and just have the fans pop for returns rather than getting invested in storylines and deep characters and this and that. Like, returns are fun. Returns are nice. Returns create moments, but they don't create long-term sustained success because it's like, it doesn't last long. The honeymoon phase doesn't last long, even when the biggest stars return. Even look what CM Punk did after 7 years of being away from wrestling, comes back, gets a monstrous, like, earth-shattering pop, but it wears off. So it's not a sustainable strategy, but they are fun to see. And so, all right, let's see what else I have here. The interesting though too, I'm not trying to spend too much time on the bloodline, but there was a lot going on here. The elders were mentioned a lot, and the elders have sent Sikoa. But Roman said, "You answer to me now." That was a nice line. And let's see. Everyone was acknowledging Roman Reigns and this. Okay, so let's move on, though. And Lacey Evans versus Liv Morgan. This match, I didn't really know I wanted, but it was really just for Lacey Evans to be a sacrificial lamb for Liv Morgan, who's on her way to have a match with Ronda Rousey at Extreme Rules. So Lacey Evans, who spent weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks talking about her, her sad life that we're all supposed to feel bad for, about, and then she comes in and we didn't cheer her loud enough, so she turns on us, and she did that for a couple weeks, and then we boo her. What happened to Lacey Evans? I know this is all about Liv because she has her match against Ronda in a few weeks, but what about Lacey Evans? Where can we land on something for Lacey Evans? I feel like they keep trying things and then they abandon them. And maybe it's from Vince. It's a Vince holdover and Triple H doesn't want to continue with it. But I know Lacey Evans has more to offer than just being this silent kind of quasi in between character that, oh wait, do we love her? Do we hate her? Do we know? Do we care? This is all about Liv anyway. And I don't like feeling like that about Lacey Evans. But in this case, Liv Morgan did beat Lacey Evans with a really, really, really bad executed Oblivion. I mean, it was just, it didn't look good. But the match was fine, and really the message that was sent afterwards was the whole point of the thing, that I can get extreme too. Okay, Liv, you do you, girl. I mean, I don't know what to say about that. Like, she was hesitant about striking Lacey Evans with a kendo stick, and then she side Russian leg sweeped her into the side of the barricade. I think that was about it. And I'm like, that's not extreme. That's what you can do in like a regular wrestling match and not get disqualified. Outside of the kendo stick, you could do that, like, because the rules are so lax. But sure, you're extreme, Liv. However, then she did like a senton. I didn't think that was going to happen. She did some kind of senton on Lacey Evans through a table that was perfectly placed. So as kind of like down a little bit I was on that whole segment before, the table spot was unexpected and perfectly placed, and it looked brutal. And sure, yeah, I mean, she's ready for Ronda Rousey, as ready as she's probably going to be for a title loss. At least that's my thought. All right, let's see here. We've got New Day versus Maximum Male Models. I like the Maximum Male Models. They're entertaining to me. They're the E part of WWE. I know you got to have some of that. And Maxine and Max, I think, add nicely to this group. Massey is a hilarious name. And I like Massey. And I think that, honestly, this group could go somewhere. I don't know the end game. They probably won't ever be tag champions, but they're a nice in-between, kind of get you up, make you feel good type of team where you know they're never going to win any really big matches, but they're going to be there for your entertainment, meaning they'll probably take a loss, they'll get beat up easily, they're the butt of most jokes, and that's fine. You can have a team or two out there that are like that. And I think that right now they have that. They filled that void pretty nicely. So the New Day obviously gets the victory here. I mean, the New Day does beat the Maximum Male Models. And how does it happen? Backwoods, i.e. roll up. Oh, I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. But okay. Then we get to another match here. I have to say, too, I have mixed feelings on this, and it's Braun Strowman versus Otis. On one hand, you have a guy in Braun Strowman that is incredibly athletic for his size. He does things he shouldn't be able to do. He does drop kicks. He does. What does he do? He doesn't do any suicide dives or moonsaults. But he does things that guys his size shouldn't do. And I'd rather have this. This is a preference. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. There's a lot of things in your life that you can do. But the other question, and more important one, is should you? And I do like Braun Strowman's return. I think it's a nice addition back to the roster. Am I giddy, goosebumped over him? No. They did change up a few things. His music is a little bit different. It seems very generic. And also, he's the monster among monsters, or the monster of all monsters. I think that's what his new slogan is. And I'm fine with that. It's better than the Choo Choo Strowman Express. The monster among men wore out a long time ago. So monster of all monsters is fine. For now, it feels like a bit of a hold me over until they come up with something new for him. And they did allude to on the show, which I'm glad because I felt the same way, that Braun Strowman, who appeared on Corey Graves' After the Bell podcast, mentioned that he feels like he wants to do something different. Like, in other words, he wants to evolve his character. 1000% agree. It is time for Braun Strowman to reinvent his character. It doesn't mean, when I say reinvent, doesn't mean you need to blow up and start from scratch. It just means things feel stale, even though you've been gone for a while. It still feels like you never left because you're doing the same things, you're doing the same roars. Your music isn't totally different. It's got obviously it is different, but it doesn't feel different enough to separate yourself from your previous persona. And I don't know. I feel like Braun Strowman, the WWE is missing an opportunity for them right now, missing an opportunity for him to be able to do something different, to evolve into something different and do so. I don't know. Do I know what that is? No, but I don't get paid to figure that out. So, could he turn more serious? Sure. I don't want him to be a comedy act. I'll say that if I have my input. I don't want him to be some kind of shokishi. If you know what I'm talking about, you want. Let me just say this: if you know what I mean by shokishi, you are an Attitude Era baby. Okay. I don't want shokishi. If those of you that don't know what the hell I'm talking about, Big Show came out and dressed like Rikishi, and it was bad. And he dressed up in the same thong as Rikishi and completely just obliterated his character. That's what I don't want. I don't want Braun Strowman to turn into a butt of a joke or anything like that. But turning more serious, like Braun Strowman, all he does is yell. I don't know how much more serious you can get than just yelling all the time. So it's already like he's at the extreme of he's already there. So I don't know what more can be done necessarily to Braun Strowman. But again, that's not something for me to figure out. That's for creative. That's for Braun Strowman to figure out. But I just do know from a viewer standpoint that Braun Strowman feels stale even after being gone for however long he was gone. But I think this is a really good showing for Otis. I really enjoyed how they used him and made him feel with that Vader bomb that he might be able to actually beat Braun Strowman. That was good. It wasn't a 5-star classic by any stretch of the imagination, but having Strowman beat Otis is pretty much exactly what you'd expect. I mean, that's the hierarchy right now. We know it. All right. Drew McIntyre, Karrion Kross. I already went through that brawl. Raquel Rodriguez versus Dakota Kai. This was okay. Rodriguez did defeat Kai. And let me just read a little bit of a few notes from this match. So Rodriguez unloaded on her former tag team partner, overwhelming her with strength and size. When it appeared as though Bayley and Io Sky may interfere on behalf of Kai, Shotzi hit the ring and unloaded. The distraction allowed Rodriguez to score the upset victory, and then in a post-match beatdown from the heels, it ended with Shotzi, fending off the Damage Control. And Damage Control is fighting everyone, but hey, it does seem kind of welcome at this point. They said that they want to put everyone on notice. Well, Damage Control is getting that opportunity now by getting involved in almost every woman's storyline. So I like this because Shotzi for a while felt like she was in a tank, not in a tank, getting angry all the time and on TV, gone for a month. If Shotzi can cling on to Raquel Rodriguez and cling to her for dear life in terms of relevancy and TV time, then by all means, I like Shotzi. I do. I think Shotzi has a bright future. I like what she has to bring to the table. She looks different. She's just, to me, a bit of a breath of fresh air. And Raquel Rodriguez, for everything that she is I find Raquel Rodriguez a little bit boring, but only because she's just been relying on one thing and one thing only, and that's just how large her lats on her back are. I mean, like, literally, that's it. I know they did some kind of sit-down interview with her earlier, and I think it was a week or two ago, and that helped to learn about her heritage and all that she's proud of, and that's great. But if you didn't watch that and you just only watched SmackDown, you look at it and go, so like she's got large back muscles and she's a muscular woman. And I'd be like, yep, that's all we know. So, but there's it's not like any of them are. She's not in danger of being booed by the crowd or anything. But at some point, you're going to have her cut promos and cut good promos in front of live crowds. And so that time's coming. But we're not in a rush with that. So, all right, what else happened here? We got the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match that main evented the show of the Brawling Brutes versus the Usos. Another really good match, and it's almost as if they could put the Usos against anyone and it'll be a really good match. I mean, the Usos are just a top level, definitely, the most athletic tag team of all time, tag team champions of all time. Really good here. I'm glad it was in the main event of the show. And the Usos, do I even need to tell you, retained their undisputed tag team championship match, championships against the Brawling Brutes. And I have no problem with this because Brawling Brutes have no business winning it yet. They just don't. So let me read you a bit of a description of this if you haven't already seen it. And let's see here. As Zayn attempted to interfere late, Sheamus cut him off, only to be attacked by Imperium's Gunther, Ludwig Kaiser, and Giovanni Vinci. The attack, a precursor. What the hell am I saying? To next week's Intercontinental Championship match, which actually is in 2 weeks. The notes I'm reading are wrong. Between the Celtic Warrior and the Ring General, it provided a distraction that allowed the Usos to recover and deliver the 1D to Butch for the win. So Butch takes the loss for his team, but you could chalk it up to Imperium of Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci. And, of course, we have Gunther, who is the leader of that group. And, so you could really say that this isn't the biggest loss in the world because, hey, you had 6 or 5 people on 2, right? Like, it's, of course, an unfair advantage. And to me, I thought this was the right decision. I think it was a really good match, and it helped build Sheamus versus Gunther 2 in 2 weeks, not next week. So it's in 2 weeks. That is a lot of fun to look forward to. And Gunther and Sheamus, I'm sure, will tear each other apart again. And I don't think it'll be as good as their first one, because the first one is always the best. And then when they try to duplicate the best, it doesn't really work. So that's that. All right. That main evented the show, and let's talk about, Raw. I'll run through Raw real quick as reminders here. Damage Control held a celebration, and that was for the women's tag team title victories. And then we had Bianca, Alexa, and Asuka interrupt, and that led to a match later in the night between Alexa and Bayley got hit with a rose plant. Damage Control helped Bayley get the win, and then attacked Bliss after the match. Belair tried to make the save, but she was also brutally attacked, as was Asuka, and Bayley closed the show by telling Belair she wanted a Raw Women's Championship match at Extreme Rules. So, again, just confirming and continuing on the heel heat, particularly faction heel heat for Triple H. Finn Balor confronted AJ Styles and accused Styles of, quote, turning his back on him. Styles refused to engage, and Balor acted as though he wanted to fight before he laughed, and then he hugged an angry Styles and reminded him there's an open invitation to join the Judgment Day. Yeah, that's not happening. Dexter Lumis cut through the ring. That was really funny to try to drag Ciampa or The Miz into his depths of hell, into the depths of who knows. But Dexter Lumis, I'm still enjoying. I mean, the knife, the look, no complaints. Kevin Owens defeats Austin Theory with a pop-up powerbomb, and that was because Johnny Gargano took the briefcase of Kevin Owens, and that distracted him just long enough. And Bobby Lashley versus Seth Rollins by far stole the show from a wrestling perspective. Both of them on their A games and veterans of the ring. I have no problem with this whatsoever. Bobby Lashley's not getting a whole lot of promo time right now, and I think that will hopefully change as he's not forgotten, but he's definitely taken a back burner for a little while. But certainly Seth and Bobby are going to be, or were the best match of the night, in my opinion. So Riddle ran out to the ring during this match, didn't interfere, but it caused enough of a distraction for Lashley to hit the spear. So Lashley didn't get quite the squeaky clean victory that he was envisioning, but he still retains nonetheless. So, all right. Let's see here. I think that might be it. Do I dare say that's it? I don't know. We'll see. But thank you, everybody, for listening for the weekend review. Overall, I will say that it has been a fun ride the last 2 months with Triple H in charge. Focused on heel heat, back to basics, cool little new camera angles and production things that he has done over the last 6 to 8 weeks, whatever it's been. And another focus on not just heel heat, but factions forming. Factions, something that was also a lost art up until Triple H took a hold of this company here. And also quality wrestling matches. I mean, if there were going to be 3 themes, that's what it would be. Right now, heel heat, growing factions, and quality wrestling matches. If I was going to sum it up in 3 bullet points with Triple H in charge. And I like it. That's not a complaint, by the way. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Another really good week in wrestling, I thought. And stay safe out there. Don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. If you want just everything ad-free, you can do that. 99 cents a month on Apple Podcasts or patreon.com/WWE Podcast. It's also $1 a month. And you get lots of other great goodies, which, by the way, I meant to give a shout out here. I'm going to have to dig it up while I'm live on the air here, because I'm too lazy to edit it. We got a new patron, and that new patron joined us just in the last couple of days, Linda Lane. Linda, welcome to the party. I hope that you enjoy everything that we have to offer here, which is tons of ad-free content and, Discord server and shout out on the show that you're getting right now. So there you go, Linda. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for listening. I'll be back tomorrow with Anthony DeMarco on another current state of WWE. And then Raw and SmackDown and our debuting Travis Hughes that will cover AEW this week. So no fear, guys. Things are about to look up. Things are about to get crazy. And I'm looking forward to it. So thanks, everybody, for listening. Take care. I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.